I saw what looked like my name, but I really couldn't make out most of the rest of the message walking down the stairs. I saw a bird in the house. I thought that was surreal. I went down to the main level where my painting studio was, and I had some canvases out. It was in the living room area. And by the time I got down to the bottom of the stairs, the dried blood had been kind of taken over by paint. It was blue, navy blue paint, and then brown paint. And then it was, on the walls, on the lampshades, pillowcases of the sofa cushions. There was blood. In the painting studio, my canvases had been covered with what looked like just brown, blue, green, red mess. It was just a mess. There was a painting that had, a painting that the owners had that had, like giant penis on it, and some other things. There was a table overturned, a bunch of broken glass on that floor. I walked downstairs where I heard the music coming from, and that's where I found him, blaring this music. He was in the study, which is by the bar games table area off to the side, and it was just glass and blood and a broken window and just and I think he took them down or somehow showed me, and he said, "Look what you made me do. I did this for you," something to that effect. And I kind of put together, it was covered in paint, and I put together that's like he was using his finger. I quickly became aware that that's what he was using as a paintbrush, even though there was lots of paintbrushes around. And we didn't have any sort of like coherent conversation, as you can imagine. I figured out he was missing a finger. He kind of held it up, and I said, "What did you do? When? Like, what did you do? When?" And I realized in my head that there had been many hours since this probably happened, assuming that was happened with the phone. In any case, I knew it had been way too long, that he had this blood, that he was bleeding, and I said, "I'm going to call 911 if you don't call Jerry now." I still don't recall which of us called Jerry Judge, his security. At some point we went upstairs. He came upstairs, but he went up to the third floor while I was in the main floor, the entry-level floor. I went to make him a cup of coffee because he was demanding more Red Bull. And I was thinking, that's probably not a good idea. I don't know why coffee would be so much better, but in my head it was. I thought maybe, I don't know, sober him up, or I don't know. Help was coming though, and I remember I made him coffee. As soon as I handed it to him, he threw it at the TV and started screaming again. It was like back to square one. Shortly after that, security arrives. I don't know how long, maybe a few seconds or minutes went by, not long, but they kind of find Johnny, or Johnny finds them walking out of the front door, and they were trying to figure out what was going on. And as they were kind of looking at him and trying to figure out what the heck was going on, Johnny took his penis out of his pants and started trying to pee or peeing outside of the house, saying that he had more messages for me And this is in front of security. And they kind of just like looked at each other and looked at him and kind of not laughed, but kind of half, you know, played it off and corralled him. It was how it looked. It looked like corralling a wild animal back into the house with, you know, with his penis still out of his pants, peeing or trying to pee. That's what he was indicating. And he went to the wall of the house. And I remember him standing at the wall trying to leave me more, saying he had more information for me. He was gonna leave me more messages, more information for me. It made no sense. And Jerry Judge, his security, and one of the nurses, shortly after, I think they put me in the theater room, but shortly after I remember talking to one of the nurses, and she was trying to give me drugs to sedate me.
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
Trying to give her drugs. She didn't say anything. Thank you. Keep going.
And I just remember crying and rejecting what they were trying to give me and fighting with them about how much they were trying to give me. I felt like I needed to figure out what was happening with my life, what was happening with Johnny. I didn't know if he was okay. I didn't know. I actually had no idea, like, could this be something he could die from? If anything, just the drugs and the alcohol. I mean, that alone, I didn't, you know, I just remember being scared and being in this theater room, this dark theater room, and not knowing what the heck was going on. And I eventually was taken up to my room by one of the nurses, and I'm sorry, Debbie, and or suggesting I go up to my room. I went up to my room, and I took a quarter of what she was trying to get me to take, and I eventually fell asleep. I came back downstairs to look for my phone, which Johnny had picked up before my phone, and said, we're going to get to the bottom of this. He wasn't making any sense at the time. Understandably, just different. Nothing made sense. But he picked up my phone and was saying, I'm going to prove this. We're going to get to this. We're going to get to the proof of this. Something to that effect. I don't remember his exact words. And he pushed record on my phone. I didn't actually at the time think that he had done that. I had no idea, but I did know that I didn't have my phone when I woke up and went downstairs to get it. It was dead. It was sitting out on the dining room table by where Jerry Judge was sitting. Jerry Judge was on the phone and talked to me, and I went back up to bed, took more of this sedative, and fell asleep. And then I think the next day, went to the closet and took out the clothes that he hadn't painted on. I guess when he went back upstairs, he had just like, it looked like what he had done is dip his hand in a bucket of paint and just wiped it on my clothes. Just went, and he had picked up another portion of my clothes and put them in the bathtub. And I don't know if he added paint or if he just had touched them with paint, but it was this ugly navy blue brown paint. I packed what was packable, what hadn't been destroyed, and eventually left Australia with Ben King, who you met on the way there.
Let me stop you there because I want to ask you some more questions about those 3 days, and then we can talk about